Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kay and you're currently in a spiritual hot mess. Welcome to my podcast, where today I'm going to talk about why I became a peer support specialist. Now, before we get started, I'd like to ask that you please go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so that you can be updated on when I post my upcoming podcast. So today in this podcast, I'm actually going to talk about why I became a peer support specialist. I'm going to talk about what led up to me becoming a peer support specialist. What did I need to do in order to become certified in the state that I reside in as a peer support specialist, as well as how do I feel now that I'm actually pursuing my passion. So I guess we can just go ahead and get started. What led up to me becoming a peer support specialist? Well, actually, it kind of sort of starts with my childhood, as most things do, and I've actually learned in this journey on all of these years on earth that our childhood often prepares us for our adulthood and what we're actually supposed to be doing with our life if we actually pay close enough attention to it. So I would just have to say that the journey towards me becoming a peer support specialist, it started when I got on earth, aka when I was born. Like a lot of people, I went through a lot of things in my childhood and my teenage years, my young adult years, and there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of emotional stuff going on, and it just led to me making maybe not the best decisions in my life. And so when I was in my early 30s, I think, I had decided that, I had been doing some things that were not necessarily the best for my physical health, as well as my mental, emotional, and spiritual health, actually. And it was the decisions that I was making in some cases were actually dangerous. And I was just kind of going about my life like with a really devil may care attitude. So when I was in my early 30s, I had did some things, and I said to myself, you know what, you need to get some help. You need to address your childhood wounds, your childhood traumas, and start to heal what's going on, because you can't keep going on like this. These are some things that I was actually saying to myself. And it's just, you can't keep going on like this. If you continue to go like this, you're going to continue to spiral downwards. So in my early 30s, I decided to go ahead and seek out therapy. So I was blessed enough to actually be able to work with two therapists that really helped to direct me on the healing path that I needed to be on. So that was about 10 years ago. That's a long time. But yeah, that was about 10 years ago. And since then, there were a lot of ups and downs and trials and tribulations, and but I made it through. That was the most important thing, is that I didn't give up. That was one thing, like my mom would always say to me whenever things get super challenging and I had so many obstacles and difficulties. And my mother would always say, well, you always did excel when you were presented with what would seem to be insurmountable challenges for other people. She would just tell me that's kind of sort of when I dug in my heels and just like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to succeed. So essentially, that's been my life, was just every single time I was presented with obstacles, challenges, I just pretty much dug my heels in and said, all right, no, I got to get this done. So in a nutshell, that's kind of sort of what started me on a path to towards becoming a peer support specialist, although I did not know it at the time. Because even back 10 years ago, when I first went to therapy, and I would tell my therapist about what was going on and how I handled the problems, addressed the problems, they would say, did you ever think about becoming a therapist yourself? And I said, no, I don't want to be a therapist. I will burn out so fast. No, that's not for me. But when I look back, I do realize that I always was in jobs where I helped other people. I was always providing a service to other people. Didn't matter what it was. It could have been customer service, it could have been retail, it could have been health, even if it was just a shoulder to cry on. in addition to that, I was also surrounded by people that were big on helping other people, even when they didn't have a lot themselves. My mother, my grandmother, my dad, my uncle. These are all people that they were always in the help services. I remember when I was younger, my grandmother, she was a sponsor in AA, and I remember going as a child going to AA meetings with her, and then sometimes I would be at her house, and some of the people she was sponsoring, they would call her because they needed someone to talk to because they were having some particularly challenging times. And she would always have an ear, and she always had some really great advice. Even when I would talk to my grandmother always had some really, really good advice for me. Even though sometimes I didn't listen, the advice was still good. So then to my mom, my mother, so many people love to talk to my mother. It's not even funny. And my mother was actually a social worker. So she worked in a battered women's shelter, and but that was a lot on her. But she and all of my friends would want to come and talk to her. And I remember, my sister and I, we would talk to her like, why do people asking, telling their business to mommy? Like, what's with that? But as I got older, I did, realize that my mother also had a lot of really great advice. She also had a lot of wisdom. And then even too with my dad, I could talk to him about so many different things. I'm like, hey, let me run something by you, Dad. What's good? I need your advice. And he also had a listening ear for me. So I was always surrounded by people, even, older cousins I could talk to, and other people would go to them. So I don't know, maybe it's just something that runs in my family, but I've always been surrounded by people who were always willing to not only listen, but provide really great advice and sage wisdom. I have an uncle, he just recently passed, but he was a drug counselor, and he even, sometimes I would talk to him like, Unc, what do you think about this? I need help. He always also had a listening ear and really good advice. So growing up, I was just surrounded by all these people that they always would stop. If you had a question and you needed someone to talk to, they would listen. So that's just something that's kind of been, I guess, bred in me from early childhood. And even I myself, as I grew older, I would have a lot of people who would come up to me and they would say, hey, let me run something by you. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? What would you do in this situation? And I would help them out. So that's just something that, again, my childhood and adolescence preparing me for the path that I would take into my adulthood. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what kind of led me towards becoming a peer support specialist. And also another thing is other people helping me that was not my family. Sometimes it'd be strangers. And my family helped me a lot. Let's get that straight. I know a lot of people say that they don't have a support system, but I have been through so much throughout my life, and there was usually a close family member or a close friend that I could lean on. Sometimes I didn't even have to ask. Sometimes we would just be in general talking about things that was going on in our lives, and they would say, well, let me see what I can do, for X, Y, Z or ABC. So I had and have a really great support system. Even my family where I'm at now, an amazing support system. They're always willing to help. They're always like, hey, you okay? Come through. We doing this, we doing that, So I've been blessed. And I know a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that type of support system. So they kind of have to get it how they live and do it on their own. And which is a trial and tribulation in and of itself to, only have yourself that you have to depend on. But I know for one thing especially, some of the things that I've been through, it's just that people have reached out to me and helped me to the point where I was just absolutely in tears, because it's just like, why are you doing this? And why are you helping me? It was like, girl, you need help. So for me, it's almost like I want to do for others what people have done for me. I guess paying it forward in a sense, just to let people know, hey, you're not alone. That there are people out in the world that's definitely ready, willing, and able to help you without wanting anything in return. So that kind of leads me into my next point is, well, okay, I'm gonna be a peer support specialist, but how did I actually come to that decision? And then also, what did I need to do in order to become certified as a peer support specialist in the state that I reside in? Okay, well, so I was in therapy. Fast forward 10 years later, I'm in therapy again. But that's because, so my mom passed away in October of 2021. It was kind of sudden. No one was really prepared for it. And I had been dealing with a whole lot of stuff. So after we finished dealing with my mom's burial and everything like that, I left the state and I came to a different state. I've actually in the past 3 or 4 years lived in about 4 different states, but I think I'm good now. But I came here and I was dealing with so much grief, and I remember the last time when I was dealing with a lot of grief, I had went to a really, really deep depression. And at the time I didn't realize how deep of a depression that I was in, but it was actually pretty darn deep. And I remember as I was coming out of it and I went to therapy, I had made a promise to myself that if I ever felt myself going in that direction again, to where I would be in a really, really deep depression, or was headed in that direction, I would immediately get help as soon as I recognized the signs. So in 2022, dealing with the grief, plus there was some other stuff that was going on in my life at the time of my mother's passing that, kind of was weighing on me. I was going through a lot of emotional and mental stuff. And so I remember talking to my aunt about it, and she said, well, why don't you go to therapy? There's a place that I know and they're really good. I think you should give them a call. So I said, I'll think about it. So I thought about it and I said, you know what, she's right. Let me go ahead and give these people a call. And I met a wonderful therapist. She's absolutely amazing. And her and I were talking, and during one of our sessions, she said, why don't you become a therapist? Again, just like my other therapist 10 plus years ago said. And again, I said no. But then I also added that, well, I do want to help people. And at the time I was thinking more about life coaching, because that's all I had really heard about. You either become a counselor, a therapist, or a social worker. And my mom was a social worker, so I didn't want to be a social worker because I didn't want to be exactly like my mother. But so I said, okay, well, I was thinking about life coaching, but I wasn't sure. And so she said, well, what about peer support? And I said, what's that? And so she explains to me what peer support was. So I said, okay, well, let me think about it. So I went home, and then, of course, I did Dr. Google, and I looked up peer support, what it was, and I said, oh, wow. I said, this is extremely similar to life coach, only you have to be certified by the state that you live in order to actually be a peer support specialist. So when I went to my next session with my therapist, I said, hey, you know what, I think this is something I want to do. This is like right along the lines of just helping people. So she said, okay, well, let's get the ball rolling. And she reached out to some vocational specialists down here in the state and had me meet with them. And so I met with them, and we were discussing everything that was needed, what training needed to be done, testing that needed to be done, so that you get certified, and just the whole process. And in the meantime, I had this job that I absolutely loved. I was working at a private airport where wealthy people, they lease the planes and they fly all over the world. And I was just like, ooh, this is fancy. But so I was there, but then they laid me off. So December of 2022, they did this massive layoff, and the department that I was in got hit the hardest. But they do say that God works in mysterious ways, because that was right around the time that I had been meeting with the vocational specialist and talking about going into training. So it actually ended up that, okay, well, I don't have this job, so I can just go to training. So I went to training, and from the time I started working with the vocational specialist to the time I actually got my job, was 5 months, which is actually pretty quick. That's how you know when God has his hands in the pot. Because I mean, things were, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of challenges that I was facing at the time. And I remember, some of my family saying, why don't you go back to this job? Why don't you go back to this job? You need to be doing something, and I'm like, no, I can't go back there. I said, peer support, this is for me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my path. I know it. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's just like, the thing is that, not everybody is going, even if they kind of have your back, they're not going to necessarily believe as strongly as you do in the path that you're supposed to take. So really, it's like between you and God. Like when you make a decision about the path that you're going to be taking and where you want to head in life, then, and beyond any reason, of any shadow of any doubt, any of the naysayers that people saying, okay, yeah, I know this is what you want to do, but you need to do this, and this first. But you like, no, that's I can't do that. I have to do this. So that was essentially what was going on with me, because I really was struggling financially. I was on unemployment, but unemployment was not a lot. And so it was a true struggle, but I stayed the course. I said, no, this peer support thing is what I'm supposed to be doing. In a way, it kind of almost felt like I was being tested by the divine, because it's just like, okay, girl, are you serious about this? Is this what you want to do for real? And I'm just like, this is what I want to do for real. So even though it was a tough 5 months trying to get all this paperwork, this certification and this training and everything done, I did it, and then I got hired at one of the agencies, at the vocational specialist team. They were great. They revamped my resume and they did my cover letters, and then they sent my resume out. I didn't even have to do that. It was great. It was actually really, really amazing. So got the job. Now I'm working as a peer support specialist, right? And again, this is actually leading into my third point, which is how do I feel now that I'm pursuing my passion as a peer support specialist, and I feel great. Listen, if I didn't know before that I'm supposed to be a peer support specialist, once I started actually working as a peer support specialist, I knew for real that this was 100% my path in life and where I'm supposed to be going and what I'm supposed to be doing. Because let me tell you something, baby, okay? When I first started, I was a little bit nervous. I was a little bit anxious and everything because, well, I had never done this before, not professionally. Yeah, people talking to you about things and you giving them some advice, but no, this is professionally now. Like I have clients that I work with. I have people that are like, really like, okay, what should I do? What do I need to do? What do you think? But like on a professional level. So I'm just like, wow, this is wild. And, but I'm going. And then like the feedback that I was getting, like a lot of my clients are like, oh, wow, you know what? Why didn't I think about that? Or how do you know this? Or, where do you come up with this? Life has taught me. That's why I said early on in the beginning is that a lot of the things that we go through in our youth, in our childhood, in our teenage years, in our young adolescence, young adulthood, things that you're going through right now. Like if you're a young person and you're going through a whole bunch of stuff right now, when you get through that stuff, by the time you hit like your late 30s, 40s, mid 40s, sometimes even your 50s, like you're going to have so much, not just experience, but wisdom, knowledge, because you'll have gone through so much stuff and survived it, and you're on your way to now thriving, like the stuff that you go through is not in vain. It's not in vain at all. Like the stuff that you go through is leading somewhere. You might not know at the time where it's leading to, but it's definitely leading somewhere. You just gotta keep pushing. Like I know this is gonna sound cliche, but you can't give up. You can sit down and rest. You can sit down and be like, bro, I'm tired, I gotta take a break. You can sit down and rest. But once your bones rest up enough, They probably still gonna be hurt, but once they rest up enough, you get back up and you just get back to doing what you gotta do. Because at the end of the day, it's life experience. And I don't care how much schooling you go to, I don't care how many degrees you have, how many certifications you have, nothing beats life experience. When people say, what school did I graduate from, like me in college and everything, I say, I graduated from the School of Life, the University of Life. And as a matter of fact, I'm headed towards my master's degree now because I have so much wisdom and knowledge, even, at my age. So it's just, you just got to keep it. I know it's hard. You want to give up. Believe me, there's so many times I wanted to just throw in the towel and say, man, F this, I'm done. But I didn't, because it's just like, all right, let me... okay. I bet I got it. And then getting up and doing it. So, it's really fulfilling for me to know that every day when I go to work, as a matter of fact, I don't even go to work every day. I don't work because I'm doing what I love to do. I'm doing my passion. I'm doing what I came to earth to do. And that's to help people. I'm providing a service for humanity. You know what I'm saying? That's I came here. They say when you do what you love to do, you never work again. Let me tell you something. I haven't worked in almost a year. Okay? And I go to work every day, but it's not work for me. It's what I came here to do. Provide service for humanity, uplift humanity. Help people to transform. I like to call myself a transformer for the simple fact that I promise you about every 1 to 2 years, I'm transforming. The person that I was 2 years ago, I wouldn't even recognize her. Like, if I came face to face with the me from 2022, I'm like, who this? Who you? I mean, you look like me on the outside, but you don't really look like me. You don't act like me. Who are you? So if that's just 2 years ago, never mind 5 years ago, never mind 10 years ago, I would not recognize that individual because I have transformed so much, and for the better. I have evolved for the better. And so now when I transform myself, I also transform those that are around me, because now they can no longer interact with me the way that they used to, because I'm no longer that previous individual. So now they have to either catch up and meet me on a new level that I'm on, or they gotta fall behind to the wayside. Because now we no longer sharing the same energy. It's like you riding or you sliding. Because I'm riding. I'm going over here. So, that's also, if you ever wonder why when you reach certain points in your life and you doing certain things in your life, people who used to be around you is no longer around you, it's because y'all no longer are in alignment with each other. Y'all no longer share the same type of energetic pattern. Your paths have diverged. Every decision that you make in this life puts you on a new path. And the people who are in your life at the time that you make that decision, they either going to stay with you on that path because they're still in energetic alignment with you, or they're going to go ahead and keep going where they're going while you go somewhere else. And now that's how you know that those people are no longer meant to be in your life, because y'all no longer share the same energy. Y'all no longer in energetic alignment. Y'all journeys have now diverged. Y'all on different paths. So that's why, whenever, people that I used to be really, really cool with, all of a sudden, we not communicating anymore. When we do communicate, we be, confused. What are you talking about? I might miss them. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, well, that life lesson is complete. I got everything that I needed to receive from sharing the same energy signature as that particular individual, and now it's time for me to head on to my next lesson. That's how I look at it, you know? So, all right, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. And anyway, that's pretty much why I became a peer support specialist. And I do know that not a lot of people know about peer support and what it can do for you. And I'm actually going to do a few more podcasts like this, videos like this, because I think it's extremely important to get this message out there, to let people know that yes, this is an option, especially if, you know, maybe you're a little bit kind of weary of therapists. Maybe you went to a therapist before and you didn't necessarily agree with it, but you still need help. Then peer support is an option. Maybe you do go to a therapist and you love your therapist, but there's just some things extra that you wish your therapist could do, but they can't do. Well, peer support can kind of sort of fulfill that gap. Because the other thing about peer support that's really awesome is that, like, a therapist, they're working with you from a clinical standpoint, but a peer support specialist is working with you as a peer. That's the whole goal surrounding peer support, is that I've been through what you've been through. And if not exactly what you've been through, I've been through something similar to you. So that means that I can relate to you on a level that maybe your counselor, your therapist, your social worker, they're unable to relate to you on that level. You know, like when you're, another really important thing about peer support is that in order for you to become a certified peer support, you actually have to be in recovery from something for at least a year or more. And when I say recovery, I don't necessarily mean drugs and alcohol, although yes, that does count. It could be recovery from trauma. It could be recovery from abuse. It could be recovery from abandonment. It could be recovery from mental things that you had going on. It could be recovery from anything. As long as you have started your healing journey to recover from things that you have dealt with in your life, then you can become a certified peer support specialist, because that's one of the requirements. So yeah, all right, so I think that's enough for now, but I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found value in this video. You know, maybe you can take some time to think about what the things I've discussed today, and you know, maybe you even need to rewatch it just to catch something you may have missed. But I do hope that this has piqued your curiosity about peer support, and that you kind of look into it for yourself, or maybe you might know someone who you think could use the benefit of having a peer support specialist work with them. Maybe you want to become a certified peer support specialist. Maybe you know someone who would make a great peer support specialist. Then show them this video, you know, discuss it, talk about it. If you are in therapy and you see this video, show your therapist, you know, discuss with your therapist about it. Like, what do you think about peer support? Do you think maybe I could benefit from having a peer support specialist work with me on meeting my goals? And yeah, just, you know, wherever you're at, just kind of go to whatever search engine you use and type in peer support specialist and see what comes up. Okay, so, you know, and if you found any value in this video, I do urge that you please like, share, comment, subscribe, and please don't forget to hit the notification bell to get reminded of when I post new videos. And also, if you think about it, please be sure to check out some of my other videos, and I will talk to you next time. Bye now.